Welcome to the BA Sports Fantasy Podcast. This is going to be our second fantasy podcast. We're happy to be a part of the BA Network. I'm your host, Adam, and I have Brandon with me today. Unfortunately, we're going to be without Ty, but today me and Brandon will be going back and forth debating our top 10 position rankings. It should be a lot of fun, so let's go ahead and get started. Brandon, how's it going?
Yes, sir. Oh, I'm doing good. How are you doing today?
I'm all right. Let's just go ahead and hop right into it. Some news and notes from around the league. We'll go ahead and get started with that real quick.
Webb Bell's suspension has been reduced from 4 games to 3.
Yeah, a little weird for me because it seems like Le'Veon Bell's always getting his suspension reduced.
Right.
And as a Browns fan, I hate it.
That wouldn't be the case for Josh Gordon.
Right, yeah. I guess he says he missed the 2 drug tests because one of them he overslept. They tried testing at like 5:37 a.m. or something along those lines. And, I probably would oversleep too, but it's still 4 games down to 3. So that's got some good news for fantasy owners, though.
Yeah, he did admit to missing, and he's also said he has not smoked since, I think, November 2000.
He said December.
December.
And he actually got arrested in August of that year and said that he basically admitted smoking again in December and had since deleted that video off the internet, so that's kind of funny. Some more running back news. Redskins running back Matt Jones went down with an AC joint sprain. So do you think that'll have much impact there in Washington?
It's believed to be a minor sprain. Definitely, he wasn't playing too great anyways.
He's still expected to carry the load for the Redskins offense, isn't he?
They got Chris Thompson there too, so...
Is he going to overtake Matt Jones, you think?
No, but it's looking more and more like a RBBC.
Running back by committee, for those of you that don't know.
Of course.
And then more running back news just keeps on going.
Even more.
Bills release Carlos Williams. So Shady McCoy's... Well, I guess he'd be third string now that they got Reggie Bush, but
yeah,
he's out. Well, I think you said something about he weighed in at 261 pounds.
Weighed in at 261, and they had him listed at 229.
So yeah, that's a bit overweight. He blamed it on his girlfriend or wife or whatever getting pregnant and
daddy weight.
Yeah, he just was going along eating the munchies right along with her, couldn't control himself, and it's cost him his job.
Also suspended for the first couple of games too.
Right. So. It'd be interesting to see if he gets picked up by another team. I'd say it's kind of unlikely, but because he shows that he doesn't really have the discipline needed to be an NFL running back. But how do you think that's going to affect Shady McCoy, Reggie Bush?
The Carlos Williams wasn't really a big factor into why I bumped Shady McCoy up in my rankings, but this just solidifies it. Even Reggie Bush there. They got to have depth at running back.
You can't just have one running back on the roster.
You can't just go into the season with Shady McCoy and call it good. All
right, now we'll move on to receivers finally, get away from the running backs. A couple days ago, a trade happened between the Tennessee Titans and the Philadelphia Eagles. It sent Darrell Green Beckham, who is only in his second year here, he only has completed one full NFL season, over to Philadelphia from Tennessee. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, fantasy impact, not so much really. Going to Philly, you got Jordan Matthews there. He's supposedly going to be ready for the start of the season. Nelson Aguilar, first-round pick last year, hasn't proven that yet. We'll see how he does.
Right.
Doug Peterson.
And Darrell Green Beckham was pretty buried on the Tennessee Titans wide receiver depth chart.
Yeah.
He might get a chance to play in Philly, but didn't look good for him in Tennessee. So they were wise to make a move, and they went and got some lineman that's going to help them in their run-heavy offense that they seem to be clearly headed towards.
Yeah.
Which I'll have more on that later. Little spoiler or whatever you'd want to call it. Sticking with wide receivers, Mr. Larry Fitzgerald went down with an injury. What do you know about that?
Mr. Old Man Larry Fitzgerald.
Is he really that old? I know he's old in football years, but he doesn't play like he's old.
32 years old, and he has been dealing with a MCL sprain since August 17th.
All right.
It's something to monitor. Got kind of overtaken into the last year by John Brown and Michael Floyd. So continue to look for those two to improve and grow with Larry Fitzgerald aging.
All right. And then that pretty much does it for our quick little notes here. But is there anything else that you've seen around the league that's kind of stood out to you so far through the first 2 weeks of preseason?
Yeah, just something, just a quick little note here. A preseason game. Christian Michael has been playing pretty good. Through 2 games, he's had 17 carries for 99 yards, which is good for 5.82 yards per carry, which is pretty good.
How do you see that affecting Thomas Rawls?
It's kind of starting to scare me. I know I got Thomas Rawls in one of our keeper leagues, and it's just kind of going to be more or less a 1A as Thomas Rawls and a 1B with Christian Michael.
So definitely another committee there,
Yeah.
And so Rawls will see his carries diminish from what we originally thought.
Thomas Rawls, he should be able to play maybe the 3rd preseason game, and his talent alone, the way he played last year, if he can come back from that injury, he can definitely pull out of this as the clear-cut number 1.
Is there anything else around the league that's really stood out to you?
I was watching the Jaguars game, and their offense it's pretty good. I know they trying to build up their defense, but
Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns, Chris Ivory. What have you thought about Chris Ivory in that backfield?
Chris Ivory, he looked pretty great. Both running backs in Jacksonville looked pretty great.
Yeldon?
T.J. Yeldon, yeah. He's set to get some pretty good passing down work along with Totorak a couple times.
All right, so that's definitely something to look out for. What about what are your thoughts so far on? I know I'm kind of throwing you on the bus here. It's nothing we talked about, but Dak Prescott, what he's done in Dallas. Do you think he's secured that number 2 spot if Tony Romo does go down? Is he someone that maybe fantasy owners might want to look at as a legitimate backup or a potential starter for your fantasy team if Romo does go down this year?
No, not more or less a potential starter, but it just kind of assures me taking Dez Bryant in the first round, first couple picks, if Tony Romo does happen to go down, which he is probably going to.
Because Prescott does very much love to throw to Dez Bryant.
Yes, that just assures me more of a safe pick with Dez Bryant.
Right. All right, so that should do it for our little wrap-up of Around the League. We're going to go ahead and get started on our top 10 position rankings. Me and Branden went through. We don't know each other, so it's going to be kind of a surprise as we go through and talk about it. We're basing this off of just standard scoring, and we just kind of went, and the way we personally rank these players at these positions, we only did running backs, quarterbacks, receivers, and tight ends. We didn't worry about defense or kicker because that's just not fun.
Yeah,
but
they're just not important.
Right. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with quarterbacks. We'll start with number 10. Branden, who you got at your number 10?
My number 10 is Phillip Rivers.
All right, Phillip Rivers. I have Derek Carr at number 10.
Ooh, Derek Carr.
Yeah. Do you even have Carr in your top 10?
He is not in my top 10. He probably should be.
He just cracked my top 10. I really like that Raiders offense. I like Amari Cooper. I like Michael Crabtree. I like what Latavius Murray brings to the table. And I think Derek Carr is only going to continue to grow as a quarterback.
Right.
Right there, Jameis Winston's in the same boat. Jameis Winston has some good options around him as well. But I chose Derek Carr over Jameis Winston at number 10 for me.
Yeah, Jameis is not in my top 10 either.
So go ahead. What's your number 9?
My number 9 is Blake Bortles. And the reason I have him at 9 and not higher up is what I was talking about is their defense. They are trying to bolster up their defense and not be such a pass-heavy team, and just shows the clear signs of regression for Blake Bortles.
Right. Yeah, I didn't even put Blake Bortles in my top 10 pretty much for those reasons. I do think that Bortles is a pretty solid fantasy quarterback. I'd have him probably 11 or 12. But he did not crack my top 10. I ended up putting Phillip Rivers at number 9.
Okay.
I do like having Travis Benjamin, the addition for him. I do like Keenan Allen coming back healthy.
Love Keenan Allen.
Phillip Rivers has a chance to really be a pretty solid fantasy quarterback for you and someone you can get in the later rounds.
Right. Okay. Moving on. What is your number 8 quarterback?
Number 8, I put the only Manning that is now in the NFL, and that's Mr. Eli Manning.
Okay.
He is. If I was starting a team just based off of NFL statures and not fantasy, Eli Manning would not be my quarterback. But he does put up fantasy numbers. He gets lots of passing yards and a lot of passing touchdowns, to where he is definitely worthy of being a top 10 fantasy quarterback.
Yes, he scored more passing touchdowns than Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, those type of guys, and he's still going in the backs of like the 7th, 8th round.
Right. So he's definitely worthy of keep an eye on him. If you're one of those guys that likes to wait for quarterbacks in your fantasy leagues, which I know me and Branden both pretty much do that, Eli Manning is someone that's worthy of scooping up in those later rounds. Who do you got?
My number 8 is Ben Roethlisberger.
You have him clear down at number 8? He is
down at number 8.
Wow.
There's lots of good quarterbacks up ahead of him. But, Ben Roethlisberger, he's really not been that great of a fantasy quarterback throughout his career. He's been solid, but he's never been that great. He's got Antonio Brown there. He lost Martavis Bryant.
The one knack I have on Ben Roethlisberger is, for as big as he does seem to miss quite a few games.
Yes, the injuries too.
Injuries do scare me with Ben Roethlisberger. I have him much higher, which we'll get to that here in a bit.
Okay.
But I have him much higher than number 8. I like I said, the injuries kind of concern me a little bit, but he's another guy where he's going to get his touchdowns because of the people he has around him with the Antonio Browns. Granted, like you said, he is missing his number 2 receiver there, but I think Marcus Wheaton can step up. I think
Sammy
Coates is a reliable option to step up and make some plays for him. So that offense in Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger, to me, is way more worthy than number 8. We'll go on to number 7. I have Carson Palmer.
Carson Palmer, okay.
Yep. I have Carson Palmer there because I like Michael Floyd. I like John Brown. If Larry Fitzgerald can stay healthy, he's still putting up over 1,000 yards as a receiver. So he's got 3 great receivers to throw to. Right. He's going to get those passing yards. He'll get those touchdowns as long as him and his receivers stay healthy.
Plus, David Johnson also
coming
is
out of the
a beast out of the backfield.
And he's one of the best pass-catching running backs there is out of the backfield as well.
Spoiler alert, he's my number 1 running back. Okay. My quarterback here is Eli Manning, just one above
where I have him.
Obviously, he throws a ton of touchdowns. Got to get them interceptions down, though.
Yep. That's a big concern that I have with Eli. That's why when I said that I wouldn't use him as my normal, if it was a real-life team, I would not pick Eli Manning based off of those turnovers. But number 7 is pretty respectable for him. Going to number 6, I'm curious to see how you're going to react to my number 6 quarterback here. I have your boy, Mr. Andrew Luck, at number 6. What are your thoughts on me having him there?
I have him one up from that. It's a pretty good spot for him.
All right.
Coming off a lacerated kidney, I think.
I figured you'd be all over me for that one.
He's got the potential to crack top 5 this year. Got plenty of weapons with him. Look for him to have a bounce back year this year.
All right. And who's your number 6?
Mine is Carson Palmer.
No,
just
so
one up.
You're just one up in me here.
Always.
We'll wait until the season starts to see how that ends. But
okay.
All right, number 5, I have Ben Roethlisberger at 5 instead of 8.
Yeah, that's to have him above Carson Palmer and Andrew Luck is not good.
Not good.
Just not good.
Who's your number 5?
My number 5 is Drew Brees.
Drew Brees.
Old man, he's still ticking along, throwing 4,500 yards a season. Got
5,000 yards a season.
5,000 yards a season. 30 touchdowns. Bringing Coby Fleener. You got Michael Thomas, the second-round draft pick. They are super hyped about him. Willie Snead
the need for Snead.
Almost cracked 1,000 yards last year. look for him to improve too. Brandon Cooks.
And you just made my argument as to why I have Drew Brees as my number 4.
Okay.
So I have him at 4. Who's your number 4?
My number 4 is Andrew Luck, actually.
Right.
Yeah, Andrew Luck, he's, like I said, candidate for a huge bounce-back season. Went from throwing 40 touchdowns the year before to getting hurt. And even before he got injured, he was playing terribly.
But I think the injuries had a big reason as to why he was playing bad, and then it just obviously once his kidney got lacerated, that was the final straw as to why he wasn't out there on the field anymore. I think he was fighting through some other injuries that he wasn't playing to the top of his level.
Yep, so they are bolstering their lineup. They're committed to protecting their franchise quarterback, Andrew Luck. They drafted center Ryan Kelly out of Alabama last year, first round.
Yeah, my big concern with Andrew Luck is his lack of weapons around him. He's got some decent receivers with T.Y. Hilton and Dante Moncrief. They're not top-notch receivers. They're solid receivers, but they're not. You're not going to find them in my top 10 receivers.
No, but Andrew Luck can make them top 10 receivers.
Well, when that happens, then we'll talk about it. But he hasn't done that yet. Right so far to this point in his career, he's struggled to really break that barrier that I think everyone has, the expectations that everyone's had set for him. He's played very well, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that he's not playing good, but when you come in as hyped as he was, everyone's saying he's the next Peyton Manning. He's played well, but he hasn't, I don't know the best way to describe it, but he hasn't taken that next step yet into legendary.
Not yet, but he has taken them to the playoffs every year but last year, which he was hurt.
Right.
He threw 40 touchdowns, which is pretty damn good to me.
Yeah. Like I said, he's played good, but I'm waiting. I feel like there's another level from Andrew Luck that just hasn't happened yet.
You'll see it. You'll see it this year.
All right.
As he takes me to the championship.
All right. And then number 3 receiver. Who do you got?
Number 3
quarterback, yeah.
Mine is Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson.
Pretty good candidate.
Yep. I do not have Russell Wilson there. I went Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
It kind of is a surprise because I love Aaron Rodgers, and getting Jordy Nelson back, I think it's going to be huge for him.
Oh, yeah.
But the reason why I don't have Russell Wilson at 3 and I have Aaron Rodgers at 3 is because Aaron Rodgers doesn't get you the rushing yards and the rushing touchdowns that the Cam Newtons and the Russell Wilsons and the mobile quarterbacks do.
But he doesn't need it.
He doesn't need it, but...
And Russell Wilson, they are committed to running the ball, too.
Yeah.
He's not always going to light you up with passing yards.
But he still can. He still throws for 4,000, 4,500 yards and a pretty good amount of touchdowns, and he can also run for another 500 yards and some touchdowns, too, which... To me, as a fantasy owner, I love having that what's the word I'm looking for here? Dual threat. That possibility that my quarterback could run in a touchdown and throw for 3 touchdowns.
Right.
And you're not really going to get that out of Aaron Rodgers unless it's a 1-yard quarterback sneak. So that's why I have Russell Wilson at 2. We'll move on to 2 now for that reason. He does provide that dual threat, and I love my dual threat quarterbacks for fantasy. Right.
And Aaron Rodgers, he's one of the best quarterbacks in this league, obviously. He's got plenty of weapons around him.
And is he your number 2, I take it?
Yes, he's my number 2.
Which would put us both at having Cam Newton as the number 1 fantasy
obviously
quarterback.
Number 1.
He's kind of proved himself last year, and I really don't see him getting any worse. I mean, he might not run for 10 touchdowns this year, but he could probably run for 8. Mm-hmm. And then he's got Kelvin Benjamin there that's going to add a little bit more passing stats to him and maybe a couple more passing touchdowns to make up for his lack of rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, and he's going to spread the ball around too, big time. So he's hopefully he doesn't just target in on Kelvin Benjamin like he did.
Right.
Kelvin Benjamin's rookie year.
All right, so let's do a quick rundown, recap of our top 10 quarterbacks. I have Derek Carr at 10, Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, Carson Palmer, Andrew Luck, just sitting outside my top 5. And in the top 5, I have Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and my number 1 is Cam Newton.
Okay, my number 10, Phillip Rivers, 9, Blake Bortles, 8, Ben Roethlisberger, 7, Eli Manning, 6, Carson Palmer. My top 5, Drew Brees, Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Cam Newton.
Pretty similar quarterbacks there. We have them all about one spot off from each other, but we all have basically the same 10, except for I have Derek Carr in there. You don't. So we'll move on to running backs. My number 10 running back, I think, is going to surprise you.
I have a feeling our running backs are going to be way off.
I think so, too, because I know just from our talks all year of trash talking each other for our fantasy football league, we definitely look at the running backs differently. I'll go ahead and start with my number 10, and my shocker, number 10, DeMarco Murray.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
That trade of Darrell Green Beckham to Philadelphia all but just told me that they're going to be pounding the ball on the ground. They're going to be running the ball.
But top 10?
Top 10. I think he's being back in an offense where he's not going side to side like he was in Philadelphia, where he's back to being a downhill runner like he was in Dallas. Granted, he's not playing behind the same offensive line. Otherwise, I might have him top 5 because he is a top 10 running back when he's in the right situation. I think he's back in the right situation, and he's with an offense that's going to feature him and hand him the ball. My only concern is with Derrick Henry being there, how much is that going to take away from DeMarco Murray? But I think if DeMarco Murray is healthy and he gets comfortable in that offense, he'll go and he won't give them any option but to keep feeding him the ball.
Yep, that is what my one argument would have been. It would be Derrick Henry.
Right, so like I said, I just think DeMarco Murray's going to go out there and show that they can't afford to give Derrick Henry handoffs because DeMarco Murray needs them all. So who's your number 10?
My number 10, I know you don't like him, is Mark Ingram.
Why do you have him at 10?
Number 10, I know he kind of wasn't lighting the world on fire with stats last year, but he was just incredibly consistent last year.
When he was on the field.
When he was on the field, he has never played a full 16-game season. But the reason I have him at 10 mostly is because of the passing down work he took on last year.
Yep.
Even with C.J. Spiller, who they brought in, he caught 60 balls last year.
Right, and I agree with you. That's why I have Mark Ingram as my number 9 running back.
Oh, there we go.
To your surprise as well. Yeah, like I said, Mark Ingram's my number 9. I'm not a huge Mark Ingram person, but I do think he's a top 10 fantasy running back because of what you just said, his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. I do hope he stays healthy. I know he is going to be more featured this year in the New Orleans Saints offense. Hopefully he can get more carries and stay healthy. But, yeah, I have him at number 9.
Yep, okay. My number 9 is Doug Martin.
All right.
I know he was
the Doug or not.
Top of the running backs last year, and it might be a surprise that he's all the way down at number 9. Would you agree with that?
Not really. I have him at number 8. So
okay.
Doug Martin, I think.
Well, that's not that big of a difference.
Right. I'm not too surprised that you have him at 9. I can see it being him at number 9. I am getting curious though to see who you have up there that I don't because you got them. I have 8 and 9. You have him at 9 and 10. So Doug Martin, he was a beast his rookie year. I think he set the league on fire when he had a 52-point game fantasy wise.
Yep.
Hopefully there's a whole lot more of that. I think having a good quarterback in Jameis Winston and some weapons outside with the Mike Evans and Vincent Jacksons and all them, Doug Martin can regain form as long as he stays healthy, which is always that kind of goes without saying for every player. As long as they stay healthy, they'll be able to be an impact on fantasy football.
Right. The concerns for Doug Martin for me is yardage. I think his yardage is more than likely going to go down. They're going to turn the offense over to Jameis Winston, who's going to sling the ball around. And, I mean, for Doug Martin, he's got to show me really 2 consistent years in a row
right
before I deem him any higher in my rankings.
Right. Who do you got at number 8?
Number 8, I got LaShawn McCoy.
Shady. All right.
He's really good. Going to be really good this year. There's a lot of other good backs in front of him. So I'm kind of.
You think that he's going to really kind of regain his Philadelphia form this year in Buffalo?
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
All right, so we'll go on to number 7. Number 7, it was tough for me to do this, but I have Le'Veon Bell at number 7.
That's a good place for him.
Is that where you have him as well?
Yes, sir.
Obviously, if it wasn't for the suspension, I would have him much higher, probably. I mean, he would easily be top 3. There's no debating that.
Oh, number 1.
Yeah. But with him being suspended and missing only 3 games now instead of 4, like we mentioned at the top of the podcast, I have him down to number 7. He's a great running back. I hate the Steelers, and I hate Le'Veon Bell playing for the Steelers. But, yeah, he's a great running back. That's all I really got to say.
Yeah, he's going to sneak into the bottom of the first round for sure.
All right, who's your number 6?
My number 6 is Ezekiel Elliott.
All right, you have him clear down as well?
Yep, he's clear down there.
All right. Why do you have him at 6?
He's just a rookie coming. I know he's got all this hype. Everybody's so hyped up about him. But, I mean, they don't need to give him the ball 400 times like they did to Marco Murray.
Don't want to wear his body down so early in his career.
I mean, they don't need to prove to anybody why they drafted him this high.
Right. I think he proved that himself when he played for Ohio State.
Yeah.
I think he was worthy of a top 5 pick.
I mean, they got
Alfred Morris.
Alfred Morris and
Darren
McFadden. Yeah. Who I think Darren McFadden is going to have a pretty good cut of the workload too.
It's going to be interesting to see how they use those backs because they got 3 really good running backs down there in Dallas.
I could see one of them getting traded.
I could too. I'm kind of surprised it hasn't already happened, honestly. But I'm thinking after this 3rd preseason game is when we'll really have to keep our eyes out for any trades. At number 6, I have another Texas running back, and that's Lamar Miller.
Lamar Miller.
Yep, I have him at number 6. I wanted to crack him in the top 5, but just him being on a new team, I haven't seen enough yet of that Texans offense to know for sure how I think that he's going to fit in with Brock Osweiler and DeAndre Hopkins and all the weapons that they have offensively.
Yeah.
I think Lamar Miller is going to be a great running back there. But I don't know how great yet, and that's so he's my one to watch. He can he can jump up into that top 4 running backs for me, but right now I'm gonna
that's
have
where
him
I have
6.
him as my number 4 running back. All those concerns, they don't bother me one bit. It is going to be the Lamar Miller and DeAndre Hopkins show down there in Texas.
I hope so. I like Lamar Miller, like I said, but right now, until it's proven to me, I have him as my number 6.
Yeah, he's going to be your 3-down back, pass catching back. He's going to do it all. He never really got the chance to shine in Dolphins. In Miami, I think they kind of held him back.
I would agree with that. But
switching teams
for that reason is why I'm also hesitant to rank him where I potentially think he could be because we haven't seen it. Because like you said, I do think Miami kind of held him back, and him being in a new offense, there's still a lot to be seen yet.
Okay.
So number 5, who's your number 5?
My number 5 is Jamal Charles, coming off of ACL tear.
That's who I have as well. If he wasn't injured last year, Jamal Charles was pretty much the number 1 fantasy back in the past couple of years. He's at least been up there. Coming off an ACL injury for a running back, you're always hesitant to know if they're going to be able to cut with the full. It's a mental thing for him. And so is he mentally going to be ready to go back to a full 16-game season as an NFL running back?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's resumed practice already.
He's another guy we're definitely going to have to keep our eye out on this year.
Yeah, he's a pretty great value going in the second round, really.
Yeah, I would be happy with getting him in the second round for sure. Moving on, inside our top 5 now, number 4, I have Zeke.
Okay.
Just because of just because of the line that he plays behind, I think he could potentially go for 2,000 yards. I don't think he's going for 2,000 yards, but if they really wanted to feed him the rock like they did to DeMarco Murray a couple years ago, Zeke has the skill and the possibility of getting that 2K, but like I said, I don't think it's going to happen, but aligned to happen. Who's your number 4?
Yeah, my number 4 is Lamar Miller. And both of our concerns are, what are we going to see out of these two guys, Lamar Miller and Ezekiel Elliott? We just don't know.
Yeah, there's no sure things yet. And, there's still the main preseason game yet to be played. Obviously, number 3 is when the starters play almost 3 quarters. So that's when you're really going to be able to find out a lot about the offensive of the team, and hopefully that they can get out of there injury-free and into the regular season. All right, so going into our top 3 now, I have the other young guy, Mr. Todd Gurley, as my number 3.
We've probably got the rest of our rankings are probably the same.
Well, you did your spoiler. You said you had David Johnson at 2, or at 1. I have him at 2.
Oh, okay.
I have all day Adrian Peterson as my number 1 back, just because he's done it for so long.
That's the question.
Yeah, he is old, but year in and year out, he's putting up big fantasy numbers, and I don't see any reason why he'll slow down this year. So that's my number 1 back, and I got David Johnson at 2. He came on strong at the end of the year last year with the Cardinals. If you watch that All or Nothing on Amazon Prime.
No, have not.
You need to. It's awesome, and that's anybody that's listening, if you have Amazon Prime, go watch it. It's such a good show. Bruce Arians literally says in that show that he doesn't want the rest of the league to know how good David Johnson is until after Thanksgiving. They held him back until the middle of November, or the end of November.
Everybody knows now.
And so once they let him loose, he really came on fantasy-wise, and now that he's out, I expect him to continue to just tear up the league. So that's why I have him at
my number 1. He's amazing out of the backfield, catching passes. That's why I have him ranked above Adrian Peterson, because Adrian Peterson he's pretty much going to be 2 down back.
Yeah.
But he can still do his damage in those 2 downs.
It'll be fun to see how it plays out. I know, unfortunately, I had to trade Adrian Peterson, who I usually use as my keeper, to Eric, the producer here. He got lucky and took advantage of me and took Adrian Peterson off my hands so I could get some draft picks back. But that's a whole story for another day. We're going to move on. Well, first we'll recap our running backs here.
Yep.
My number 10, my surprise pick is DeMarco Murray at number 10. And I have Mark Ingram, Doug Martin, Le'Veon Bell, and Lamar Miller rounding out my the outside of my top 5. And then inside the top 5, I have Jamal Charles, Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley, David Johnson, and Adrian Peterson.
Yep. Mine are Mark Ingram, Doug Martin, LaShawn McCoy, Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, Jamal Charles, Lamar Miller, Todd Gurley, Adrian Peterson, and David Johnson.
All right, so our running backs aren't that different like we kind of thought they would be. We do have pretty similar running backs for our top 10.
Yep. Who was the one guy you left out in place of DeMarco Murray?
It was
that I had.
Who'd you have at number 7? Who was your number 7?
Lev Bell.
Who'd you have at 8?
And Shady
McCoy.
You left Shady McCoy out.
Yeah, he's definitely my number 11. I like Shady McCoy, but right now I'm feeling the DeMarco Murray train in Tennessee, so I think that he's going to jump ahead of Shady McCoy and just go with it.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to be all we're going to do for you today. We will continue this on another podcast, hopefully next week, where we will give you our receivers,
wide receivers and tight ends.
So, yeah, we'll hit you next week with our receivers and tight ends. Hopefully it's before your draft so you can still get some of this knowledge and put it to use before your draft starts. I know our draft is a week from today. I'm so looking forward to that. We're all getting giddy just thinking about it. But, yeah, so thanks for listening, guys. This is hopefully, like I said, it's going to help you with your upcoming draft. Also, make sure to check out our other podcast, the BA Sports Podcast, as well as check out the website at thebaobserver.com. You can find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All handles are at BA Sports Podcast. While you're on Instagram, make sure you head over to BA Food, at BA Food, and check out the cooking tips and tricks ran by our friend Branden Trainer. And again, a huge thanks to Eric, the producer behind the scenes, that we couldn't do it without him. He makes all of this possible. So thanks for listening, guys.
Yep, and if you guys have any fantasy questions, comments, whatever, keeper questions, draft questions, whatever, hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. We'll answer your question, maybe answer it on the show.
Absolutely. We'd love to get some more involvement from our listeners. So hit us up and get your chance to be mentioned on our next podcast.
Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Just later.